there, I'm Claire Cluer from LVC Games and I'm going to tell you how to play the Pyramid of Khufu. For those of you who are new to the Pyramid of Khufu, let me tell you a little bit about the backstory. So the Pyramid of Khufu is a game that myself and my husband Steve Cluer created during 2020. It was fully funded through Kickstarter, which enabled us then to be able to sell it completely and 100% for charity. We're raising money for Velindre Cancer Centre in Cardiff in South Wales, and every single penny of every single game that is now sold goes straight to them. Nothing to us, all to them. So if you haven't bought one already, take a look in the information beneath this video and I'll put links there on how you can buy it, whether you're in the UK or whether you're further afield, and you can give a little bit of knowledge to yourself that you're doing a really good thing by buying this little game. Now let's see how we can play the game. I'm going to talk you through the simple mode. We have a more intermediate mode and an expert mode as well, which I'll talk about in a minute. Also, we have a solo mode and we have an expansion called the Secrets of the Tomb expansion, which I won't go into detail today, but they're fully detailed inside the book itself, so you can have a look at that in your own time. Now I'm going to start off by doing an overview of the game by using the playmat. Now the playmat does not come with the game, it's an added extra, which details of which I'll put underneath this video. But I'm using it just for now, just the very start of the playthrough, the instructions on how to play, because I think it shows really well how you're going to be structuring your pyramid. The great King Khufu has asked you, as one of his leading architects, to build his pyramid ready for his death. You have to build your pyramid layer by layer. As you'll see, we have 4 layers to the pyramid. We have the subterranean level, the Queen's Chamber, the King's Chamber, and finally the capstone. Now, as the game goes through, you cannot add any cards into each layer until you first open the level. Now, on all levels, whether you're looking at the beginner level, the medium level, or the expert level, you will start with the subterranean level. The playthrough I'm going to do today, the instructions that I'm going to show you today, will also include the Queen's Chamber and the King's Chamber. Now, in the harder versions of the game, you're not given these 2 cards, and you need to find these and play these before you're allowed to put anything in these parts of the pyramid. You will also see that we have a space for a robber's tunnel. I'll explain that a little bit later on as well. And if we go slightly further up, you'll also see a section right at the top, and this is for your market. Put away any remaining King's Chamber or Queen's Chamber cards back into the box because you're no longer going to need it for this version of the game. Then deal a hand of 7 cards to each of the 2 players. Then deal out a marketplace of 5 cards, and then you have your draw pile. The marketplace can be anywhere on the board as long as both players can access it. It doesn't really matter. You just got to make best use of the space that you can. Then each player will receive 1 each of our sacred special tokens. We have a protect token, a search token, and a hide token. And I'll explain those a bit more in a minute. Now I'll go through an overview of the gameplay itself. First, decide who's going to go first. Now this could be the eldest, whoever has the tallest headdress, or simply the last person to have sand in their shoes. Each turn has the following phases: a market phase, a building phase, and then a replenish phase. The market phase. Firstly, you take 1 card face up from the market, add it into your hand, and then discard 1 card into the discard pile, face up, so everybody can see it. Even if you don't want a card from the market, you must take a card from the market every turn. This ensures that the marketplace stays fresh and the local traders are not offended by your disinterest in their wares. There's no rules regarding which card you may discard. You may immediately discard the card you've just acquired from the market if you so wish. So let's do that. I will take the sarcophagus and I will add it into my hand. Then, because I now have 2 sarcophagus, because I didn't check beforehand, which was incredibly foolish, I'm now going to get rid of my second sarcophagus. I'm going to get rid of the one with the +1 for now, because I have a nice +5. Now, it doesn't matter if you have 2 of the same item to go into your pyramid, and I'll come on to that in a moment. But for now, we're going to, in fact, we'll put it at that end. We'll have our discard pile next to our draw pile, and we will refresh the market. Now the next phase is the building phase, and you can take up to 3 actions in this phase. There's a number of different things you can do in the action phase, so I'll go through them one by one. The first item is placing or tucking a sacred item into your pyramid, assuming you have space. The sacred items, which you can always refer to in the reference guide, must be placed into the pyramid using the structure that I showed you earlier on the playmat. So you have 4 in the subterranean level, 3 in the Queen's chamber, 2 in the King's chamber, and eventually then you will have your capstone at the top too. So if I wanted to use this action as part of my turn, I might decide to place that sarcophagus, because it was a nice number 5, straight into my bottom layer. You cannot start filling the upper layers until you've finished the bottom layer. In the harder versions of the game, you obviously have to find these 2 cards first and play those as one of your turns before you can put any items into those layers of the pyramid. So I place a sarcophagus into my pyramid as one of my actions. Now, if I had instead decided to put in my weapons, knowing that I have an extra one in my hand, my second turn out of 3 could have been to tuck that weapon card underneath my existing one. The benefit of this is that at the end of the game, you are adding up all the points that you have in the corner of your cards. And if your sneaky opponent later on manages to find the robber's tunnel and opens up a robber's tunnel into your pyramid and they steal one of your cards, you have a spare lying underneath. I think I might do that for now. Another one of your actions is tucking a god into your own or your opponent's pyramid. Now, I have 2 gods in my hand. This one is brilliant. Mafdet's got 4 points, which will add to my score at the end of the game. You cannot finish your pyramid, you cannot place your capstone unless every single one of your items is blessed by at least 1 god. Each item can be blessed by 1 or 2 gods. It makes no difference, but there has to be at least 1 and no more than 2. So I'm going to place this one into my own pyramid. To do that, I do not show my opposition what it is. I turn it face down and I tuck it underneath. Now, to stop the confusion between whether you have a god underneath your items or you have a secondary item, keep all your items face up on top of each other. Keep all gods face down, protruding slightly. Now, it can be protruding to the side, it can be protruding to the top. I mean, it's not ideal on the black background with the black card here, but any way you like, so you know that there's 1 god under there. If you end up tucking 2 gods underneath, make sure they protrude in different ways. So there you can see quite clearly there are 2 and no more gods can be put into that item. But this is not a good god. The main score of this god is a -3. So instead, as my action, I could tuck that underneath the items in my opposition's pyramid. What we would suggest is don't tuck gods under items that your opposition have not yet got a god underneath, because you're helping them. You're helping them finish their pyramid and being able to place that capstone. Place a naughty god underneath an item that already has a god tucked underneath it. Another one of your actions could be to place the robber's tunnel. You have to have this in your hand to start off with, and then you can play it as part of your go. To play this, simply place it alongside your opposition's pyramid. We suggest having it slightly on a squiff, just so it's clear to see that it's not one of the open chambers and it is in fact an evil robber's tunnel. When the robber's tunnel is then in play in your opposition's pyramid, you can then play a steal from pyramid. So to play this card, you place it into the discard pile, roll the dice. Good throw, that's a 2. And I can steal 2 items, not gods, from my opposition's pyramids. If they have multiple items in the same slots, you cannot take all of them as one steal. You could potentially take both if you've got the option to have 2 steals, but they are absolutely individual cards. So for this example, I would want to steal probably that nice number 5 sarcophagus and the Book of the Dead, because that's also number 5, and I'll put them into my hand. Now the opposition is left now here with a god blessing nothing. That's absolutely fine at this stage. It's only at the very end of the game, when scoring takes place, as to whether this happens or not, this scoring takes place. If the opposition manages to replenish that section by replacing it with a sacred item, any sacred item, as long as it's not a duplicate of one that's already in there, which I have done there, I've just realised. Well done if anybody spotted that. As long as it's not a duplicate, then at any point on their go, they can build their pyramid and place it back over the god. It doesn't have to be the same. If at the end of the game, when scoring takes place, there is no item on top of that god, which can happen, I'll explain how at the end, that god simply floats away and is not part of your scoring. The other action you can do is using one of your 3 special tokens. Now each token can only be used once per phase. Now I'm about to play this lovely card, which we've seen already, the sarcophagus, +5, into my pyramid. Now I know my opposition hasn't got a sarcophagus yet, and I don't want them to see this and try and steal it. So I'm going to use my hide token, which means that this once and this once only, I can place that card into my pyramid. Even though it is an item, I can place it face down. The hide token then stays on top of it. Now in future rounds, if I wanted to put another card, which I know that they haven't got either, and again, it's a nice juicy one, maybe now they've got the sarcophagus, so it's not important, that one quite so much, I might decide instead to play that as one of my actions, and as my second action, take the hide token from there and place it on top of that one. However, as soon as I do that, you then have to reveal the one you previously hid to your opposition. Another of the tokens is the protect. Now this also is one of your actions, and this can be placed on any pile at all within your pyramid. This will protect not only from your opposition stealing any items from your pyramid, but also will stop them putting any gods into that pile. And then finally, we have the search token. Now, as the game goes on, you might quite easily forget what is in each pile, especially the gods. This is the only way to find out which gods are hidden underneath a particular pile. So use one of your actions to place it on or near a pile, because you're about to pick up the pile. Then you can pick up that pile and have a good look to see which gods are hidden within it. Then you place it back to the side. That's the only one that goes back to the side each time. These, once they're used, they stay on the piles until you decide to use them elsewhere. One additional note with regards to the protect is very, very powerful because it does stop your opposition stealing from your pyramid and tucking evil gods under there, but also it stops you from tucking further items underneath it, and likewise also tucking any gods. So be very careful when you use the protect icon. Now we've already mentioned the steal from pyramid card. The other card you can play as an action would be steal from hand. Simply play it into the discard pile, and your opposition has no choice, and you can steal blindly from their hand the number of cards that are detailed on the card. The other one you can do is the search discard pile. Place it to one side, have a good search to the discard pile. There should be more than this when you decide to search it. Take a card that you want, put the rest back, put your search discard pile card, back on top, and you're done. And you end up with an extra card. If you're playing the intermediate or the more advanced version of the game, another action you could do is if you've got your Queen's Chamber or your King's Chamber card in your hand, one of your actions would be to play that to open up the chamber. But you cannot open the King's Chamber until you first open the Queen's Chamber. And then the final action you can do, if you absolutely have nothing else to do because you're nearing completing your pyramid and you're just waiting for one more elusive item to appear, is you can simply discard cards from your hand. For each card that you discard from your hand, takes one action. So if I want to discard 2 from my hand, that's 2 out of my 3 actions gone. You may use any combination of actions in any order you wish, which is what I've been showing you. And you may duplicate actions if you wish, which I've also shown you. And the only exception to this is the special tokens. Now, on your first go, you can use these whenever you want, but you can only use them once per round, sorry. As you get more difficult, as you get to the higher difficulty, why not restrict yourselves? You can only use 1 token in total per go. Then we're on to the replenish phase. You must end your turn with 7 cards in your hand. I only have 4. So I take from the draw pile as many as I need to get my hand back up to that number. Now, occasionally you may find yourself with more than 7 cards in your hand. Unfortunately, this does not appease the gods, and you must discard cards until you are back up to 7 cards. The game ends when one of the players places a capstone. Now, the capstone cannot be placed unless you have all 9 items in your pyramid. If you've got one hidden, the only way to find out if you've actually got the right one there is to remove the hide and put it somewhere else, which will take up on your actions, or to use one of your search tokens. Then you'll have to have a little sneaky look to see whether that is one of the 9 items that go into your pyramid. Also, every single item in your pyramid must have at least one, I'll put the hide token back in there, at least one god blessing it. Here you can see there's 2. And these have 1. That's absolutely fine. The capstone does not need to be blessed by a god. When someone places their capstone, that is the end of the game. It does not matter that the other person has not completed their pyramid. In fact, placing your capstone does not necessarily guarantee that you have won. Now let's find out how the scoring works. Now, this is where the Book of the Dead, scores, comes in. We have 2 tokens with 50 on one side and 0 on the other side. Simply decide who's going to be which colour, and this will help with your scoring. Now, if you've ever played Carcassonne, and you'll be familiar with the moving of the tokens along the score chart as you go. The same will go with this, but sometimes you'll be moving backwards as well as forwards. Firstly, have a look at all your sacred items, not just the top ones, but also the ones underneath. So for here, we've got 2 weapons, we've got a 3 and a 1, so that's 4. Add up all your sacred items in the same way. Place the score icon token onto your score chart to allocate how far along you've gotten, and put that to one side. Then you can take all your sacred items and place them to one side, but do not get rid of them. You might need to refer to them in a minute. Now I'm going to give you an example of scoring the gods. This is where it can get a little bit complicated, but this is where the score sheet becomes really useful to go forwards and backwards. So first of all, we'd recommend using the top corner scores first. Okay, so you go -2, +6, +3, +4, +4, -3, +4, +6. Do that on your score chart and it should be self-explanatory. Then concentrate on this aspect of the card itself. So you can see you've got a +4 if discovered in the same pyramid as Apep. Mahez helps protect Ra from the devious snake. Now, all the text, all the story that goes with these gods has been verified by the Egyptian Museum in Swansea, which they were very helpful when we created this game, so we thank them greatly. But it also gives a nice sort of feeling to the game as well. So for this one, we have no Apep, so that does not count. Ignore it. This one, for Num, he's great. If you complete your pyramid first, if you can see that, Num gives his additional blessing. Now, in this example, we're going to say that this came from the person who did complete the pyramid first. You get a +5. Now this one, Tarouet, is a -3 if discovered in the same pyramid as the aggressive Sobek. Rumours begin that they may have once been married. No wonder they're not pleased. So -3 because we do have Sobek. And put them to one side once you've checked their additional information. Amun. Oh, wow, look at him. He's a +4, which is nice enough. He's a +8 if combined in the same pyramid as Ra. The powerful Amun-Ra is created. We have Ra. Excellent. That's a lovely extra bit of scoring. So you can see, with just the extra bonuses, and some of them being incredibly high scoring gods in the first place, that even if you haven't completed your pyramid, you might still win on points depending on the types of gods you've managed to tuck underneath your sacred items. Most of these god conditions in the bottom refer to other gods, or very occasionally about completing your pyramid first. He's the only one that applies to. There is, however, the odd card which will require you to check to see if you have a particular item in your pyramid. So here's an example. Shesmu. It's a -5, so it might be a negative if your opposition have put it into your pyramid, but you might get some points back because if you have the Book of the Dead in your pyramid, which I know for a fact we have done because I put my items to one side to check just in case, I get a +3, so it's not quite as bad as it could have been. Then when you put all the scores together, the one with the highest score is the winner. So that's it. That is the Pyramid of Khufu. Hopefully it's made it quite a simple game for you to pick up and play. It's nice and small, which is really good. We wanted it small so it's, you can take it on a holiday with you. Also, what's very special about this game is that it is completely plastic free. Not one single piece of plastic involved. No shrink wrap. In fact, we had stickers on the ends to make sure it's all nice and sealed for you. But no plastic. No plastic was harmed in the making of this game. So hopefully that gives you another incentive to give our little game a go. Any questions, any queries, feel free to post it underneath this video and we'll get back to you. Can you appease the ancient gods?